A recently hired principal made a bold move by issuing suspension notices to more than 500 of the 1,100 students at her school, leaving most people to wonder what all of those teenagers could have possibly done do deserve the same punishment. Then, she revealed the reason behind her decision, and it left everyone stunned. Lisa Love had only been the principal of Harrisburg High School for a few months, but she immediately noticed a concerning trend among the students. Most of them had racked up an alarming amount of unexcused absences from class. She decided that something needed to be done to correct the problem, so a new approach was needed if new results were expected. The problem I've noticed here as principal is that students are coming to school, but they are not going to classes when they get here, Love said, according to Penn Live. Many parents send their kids to school and they're thinking they're going to class. I needed to reach out because of the enormous number not going to class. Principal Lisa Love decided to suspend every single student who had an excessive amount of unexcused absences from the school, which has long struggled with poor test scores and a low graduation rate. Love said she could not improve academic achievement at the school if students don't even bother to show up. If you're not in class, all you're here to do then is to wreak havoc upon the school and disrupt the work that we are trying to do here, to focus on student achievement, Love said, according to ABC 27. And a lot of times doing transformational work means that you have to do some radical things to get the attention of parents and the community and students. Assistant Principal Keith Edmonds said that the benchmark used to establish what constituted excessive absences, which earned students a suspension, was 35 missed classes within a 45-day marking period without providing proper documentation. That number represents a week's worth of missed classes or 7 classes per day in a 5-day week. The students hang out in bathrooms and empty areas of the school to get out of going to class and hid the absences from their parents. Right now, the process is just to weed out where our issues are so that we can properly address them, Edmonds said. Superintendent Sybil Knight Burney backed up Principal Lisa Love's decision to issue suspensions to half of the students at Harrisburg High School, saying it should be a wake-up call to parents in a school district where the graduation rate is more than 30% lower than the statewide average. In order for us to get different results, we have to do something different, Knight Burney said. We can't do the same old and then complain about it when we're getting the same old results. Indeed, that would be the definition of insanity. This was a hard decision for me to make, Principal Lisa Love said of the suspensions. I had to get the attention of the community to let them know that we are here. And we're about to do some wonderful things for students and the community, and we want this to be a school that everyone is proud of. And this was probably the eye-opener we needed to make that happen. In a demographic where the graduation rate is so low, the obvious culprit is a lack of parental involvement. It certainly sounds as though the mothers and fathers of the students at Harrisburg High have no clue what exactly their children are doing all day long. Hopefully, all those suspensions served as the wake-up call that they desperately needed. The news of over 500 suspensions quickly spread throughout the school district, leaving many parents in shock and disbelief. It wasn't long before the phones at Harrisburg High began to ring off the hook, with concerned parents demanding answers. Some expressed outrage, arguing that suspending such a large number of students at once seemed excessive. Others, however, applauded Principal Love for taking a stand and trying to turn things around at a school that had been struggling for years. One mother, Linda Morales, was one of the concerned parents who showed up at the school demanding to speak with the principal. "I couldn't believe it when my son came home with a suspension notice," she said. "But when I looked into it, I realized he had been skipping classes and I had no idea. I'm upset, but I also understand why this had to happen." Like many parents, Linda was unaware of just how much school her child had missed and found herself questioning how things had gotten this far without her realizing. Principal Love had anticipated the backlash, but she was prepared for it. During a special assembly held for parents, she explained that the goal wasn't to punish the students, but to address a deep-rooted issue in the school culture. "This is about accountability," she told the gathered crowd. "Not just for the students, but for the parents, teachers, and the community. We need to work together to fix this problem, because if we don't, it's the kids who will ultimately suffer." Some students, on the other hand, were less understanding of the situation. "I get it, we should be going to class, but suspending half the school isn't going to fix anything," said sophomore Jason Caldwell, who had been suspended for missing over 40 classes. He argued that the problem wasn't just with the students, but also with how engaging and relevant the classes were. Nobody wants to sit in a class where they feel like they're not learning anything. Others, however, admitted that they had been taking advantage of the leniency the school had shown in the past. "We thought we could get away with it because no one ever really did anything about it before," said a senior who preferred to remain anonymous. "But now it's clear that things are changing and we're going to have to shape up if we want to graduate." In response to the criticism, Principal Love and her staff quickly worked on implementing a plan to provide additional support for both students and parents. This included after-school tutoring programs, parent-teacher workshops, and a revamped attendance monitoring system that would alert parents in real time if their child missed a class. Love emphasized that the suspensions were just the beginning of a larger effort to transform the school. The bold suspension move also sparked conversation at the district level, with other schools in the area considering similar actions to address absenteeism. While some administrators were hesitant to adopt such a dramatic approach, others saw it as a necessary step to shake up a failing system. "Sometimes you need to be willing to make tough decisions if you want to see real change," said one district official who supported Love's actions. Despite the controversy, Principal Love stood by her decision. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she said. "But we're in this for the long haul. We owe it to these kids to give them the best education possible, and sometimes that means making unpopular decisions." In the weeks that followed, the effects of the suspensions began to show. Many students returned to school with a new sense of responsibility, knowing that their actions were being closely monitored. Attendance rates improved significantly, and teachers reported fewer disruptions in the classroom. However, there were still challenges to overcome, particularly with students who struggled to stay engaged academically. Recognizing this, Love doubled down on her efforts to create a more student-centered learning environment. She encouraged teachers to develop more interactive and hands-on lessons that would capture the students' attention and help them see the real-world applications of what they were learning. "We can't just focus on discipline," Love said. "We also have to focus on making the learning experience meaningful for these kids." The community's response to the suspensions was mixed, but over time, more parents began to see the value in Love's tough love approach. Parent-teacher communication improved, and there was a noticeable increase in parental involvement at school events. "This was the wake-up call we needed," said one parent. "We can't just send our kids to school and expect the staff to do everything. We have to be part of the solution, too." As the school year progressed, the overall climate at Harrisburg High started to shift. Test scores showed slight improvements, and more students were staying on track to graduate. While there was still a long way to go, Principal Love remained optimistic about the future. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We're building something here, and I believe we're on the right path." In the end, the suspensions served as a catalyst for change, not only for the students, but for the entire community. It was a difficult and controversial decision, but one that ultimately brought attention to the deep-seated issues that had been plaguing the school for years. Principal Love knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she was determined to see her vision for Harrisburg High come to life. "Education is about more than just showing up," she said. "It's about engagement, accountability, and creating a community where everyone feels valued and supported. That's what we're striving for here, and I won't stop until we achieve it." Despite the initial uproar, Principal Love's decision to suspend over 500 students began to inspire conversations about educational reform within the district. Other principals and administrators reached out to her, curious about her bold approach and how it could be applied in their own schools. Love's actions had not only addressed the attendance problem at Harrisburg High, but it also shined a spotlight on the larger issue of chronic absenteeism in the state. "We can't keep ignoring this," one administrator from a neighboring district remarked. "Lisa Love is making waves, and we need to pay attention." Even as the school began to see improvements, Love remained focused on her ultimate goal: to create an environment where every student felt compelled to participate in their education. She held regular meetings with teachers, encouraging them to continue refining their teaching methods and connecting with students in meaningful ways. "This isn't just about getting them in the classroom," she explained. "It's about keeping them engaged once they're there." By the end of the school year, Harrisburg High had seen an increase in attendance, improved academic performance, and a stronger sense of community involvement. Principal Love's suspension strategy had been risky, but it had paid off in ways that even her critics couldn't deny. This was never just about punishment, she reflected. It was about showing these kids that we care enough to hold them accountable. And now, they're starting to care too.